So here you are in the big meeting, and you've been given a directive, and now you're telling your team, and they look down. They could care less. Well, I have been in those meetings, and they are uncomfortable, especially when I was a new leader, and all you could just see all the faces just drop. So that's what I'm here to help you with today is how do you keep employees going towards new goals? And if you're new to this channel, it is lunch bites and leadership insights. These are things that I wish I had had time to listen to when I was a leader, because I know leaders, you do not have a lot of time in business owners, but you got issues and you have a question. So hopefully in this 10 minutes that you take, you are giving yourself lunch every day, right? You to have a second to get ahead for your business so you set yourself up and your employees up for success. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to tell you about, because like, of course, the last video we talked about how do organizations overall fail at delivering on big goals. Now that you've got the big goal, you've got to get a lot of people motivated and excited to go along with you on that journey to complete the goal. And my first tip for this at an individual contributor or a, maybe the people who are implementing the big goal, the first thing you got to do is do what I learned in grad school a long time ago with training and development. You have to get them to understand what's in it for me, classically known as the WIIFM in acronym land. So, sure, if you were a part of the team that made the decision for the goal, like you were a part of the executive team or you were a part of the business unit that said, hey, we need this to make it happen, you might be pretty excited about the goal. Well, at least you are at the beginning, but that all changes later. That's another video. But if you're a part of setting the goal, you know what's in it for you. You know what the value it's going to bring, how it's going to help your team maybe to be more efficient or help you deliver to your customers. So you're pretty excited, but it may not be the same for the people who actually have to do all the implementation and the a lot of challenges that go along with implementing a big goal. So you have to get it connected to what's in it for them. Your motivation being what's in it for you is you are showing the owners of the organization or the shareholders that you can execute, you can accomplish big things, you can deliver big results. And hey, let's be real, that might affect your bonus or some other compensation. But when you go lower and the people are doing the work, they don't usually get those immediate big tangible things. They may just see it as more work. So you have to find a way to find out what's in it for them. Why should you ask them to do this bigger goal that is important to the organization, but it may not be important to their daily lives? So, some ideas of what could be in it for them is that they get to learn new skills. They get to work with a vendor. That's always a good thing to have on your resume to say that you can work with a vendor, you can do negotiations or contract negotiations for sure. Maybe they get to do a cross functional role. So they are getting more exposure to other parts of the company and they're getting to take on a leadership role. That can be very appealing and what's in it for them. It could also be, hey, let's be real, there could be compensation tied to it. So maybe at the end of the goal, the project is implemented, the company is seeing a financial reward for it, you decide to reward everybody who was a part of it. So to wrap up this talking point is that you really have to find out what motivates an individual to give it all they got, what's in it for them, why should they give it you everything they've got to make you look better to your leaders and the company at large. So think about that. All right, we are to number two, and that is to evaluate the people that you're asking to participate in this big goal, in this change, or maybe it's a smaller goal. It doesn't have to be something that's going to cataclysmically change and alter the way you do business. But the people that are going to be involved with the change and the organizational mechanics that have to go with it, If you're a smart leader, what you're going to do is you're going to evaluate for each individual participating in this, is this their normal job? So it is a part of their cycle of work. Or are you asking them to do something extraordinary? Maybe extraordinary is a little far, but you're asking them to do something more than what their daily responsibilities are. So let me give you some examples of that. So a job that I had, one of my first jobs right out of school was I was an IT trainer and I loved it. It was such a great job and I learned so much when I was there. So I worked on projects that were enterprise wide and they would start with, the business and the business developers and systems requirement people all talking blah 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 blah. So they're all trying to figure out that, what do they need changes from an IT perspective to help their businesses, right? Or their different business units. So then IT would get together and they would get a project team together. And of course, on these project teams, there were developers. And their whole job was to, of course, be on project after project, writing new code, doing the testing, all that good stuff that would make this new IT product help their business, right? So that was their job, and they were used to it. They were used to the cycle of starting something, working it through development, working it through testing, making the adjustments, getting the bugs out, and then full implementation. That was the gig. They were used to it. Nothing major going on, but we'll get to that in a little bit in the next tip. But imagine your accounting team. They also, you're going to ask them to do something like they need to start a new process, or let's say you're going to implement a new accounting system. We'll kind of keep with the IT theme there. If they're going to implement a new IT system, you are asking them to do something that is more and above and beyond their normal responsibilities. So, what does an accountant pretty much do? Depending on if your accounts payable or accounts receivable, or you're in a leadership role, you are processing payments or you're sending out money on behalf of the company, right? Day in, day out, very cyclical job. If you're going to implement a new accounting system, you are asking them to do a lot more work than what is normal. Implementing anything new, I've implemented new payroll systems. It is a pain in the, well, you know what it's a pain in. I don't need to tell you about that. But to get to my point is that in order to be successful, to get employees to help with these big goals that you're trying to accomplish, you want to be sure if you're asking them to do something extra that is beyond their normal job duties, that you've given them the bandwidth to do it. Burnout is real. And I hear it from a lot of my colleagues out there of all ages. Everyone is tired. So if you want this to be successful, you need to be sure that you're giving them the bandwidth to do this. And if there's normal job and it's a part of their cycle, yeah, you don't need to maybe make their bandwidth. Now, you may want to be cautious of you're asking them to do too many projects, and that's how they're getting their bandwidth burnout. But you do want to be recognized that, hey, they're doing a great job. So that is number two. Evaluate if it's their normal job or if you're asking them to do something special. And number three, you want to be sure you are celebrating everything. We do not do this enough, even in IT, where it was a part of my job. It sure would have been nice at the end of every project, especially the bigger ones, if there had been some sort of celebration or recognition. Uh, One of my bigger projects, and I wasn't actually in charge of it, there was another training specialist in charge of it, but I helped with the implementation, is we were changing out the whole resort management system. So it was a resort, a hospitality company. So we were going to the different resorts and kind of implementing them one by one. So you can imagine it took a long time and a lot of effort. But at the end of this large project, this huge implementation, and it was successful, there was nothing. There was nothing. Not that I can remember anyway. Maybe there was something. So that means if there was something, it was probably on the small side because it was expected that I do that. But sure, there is expectations, but recognition sure goes a long way. And I also want to encourage you that if the project fails or you don't meet the goal, you still recognize everybody and their efforts because, gosh, working today is hard. I mean, work has always been hard because that's why we call it work, right? If it was fun all the time, we call it fun, but we do call it work for a reason. And you just want to take that moment to recognize effort, even if the project went south, even if the project did not and the results that was expected, you still want to give a moment of, hey, thank you for the effort. Do that post-mortem, which is an awful word, but you know what I mean. Go back and look at the project and see where there were opportunities that everybody missed. And then say, everyone, you know what, we gave it a good shot. It's just not what the marketplace was because so many goals fail because there's just a lot of stuff that's out of your control. But you give everybody the applause and the recognition and maybe even the compensation when things fail, but it's certainly when they go well. Make everything at least somewhat recognizable that it was a special effort, that even people who were like our developers, who it was their routine, imagine just even being complimented or given, I don't like pizza parties. I think they're such a cliche. But if something had happened where we just took a moment and say, like, hey, we wrapping this baby up, it's time to move on to the next one. That might be a good thing for you as a leader to give people LinkedIn referrals when a good project goes well. Of course, share appropriately. You don't want to, tell proprietary secrets. You don't need to give everybody your laundry, good or dirty or clean. But it is important that you recognize. So that is tip number 3, celebrate everything, big and small. So those are my 3 tips to help you motivate or encourage or get the great work you need out of employees to accomplish large organizational goals. That's all you can do. And coach, keep them motivated along the way, but that's for a separate video. If this helped and you don't know where to start as you're setting these goals, check out my other video that tells you how organizations fail at reaching their goals. And I'll see you next time.